feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I want to be the greatest. Everybody on the face.
Hey everybody, welcome to that EFIN Sports Show. We appreciate it. It's Thursday on the record day, so that means Adam Hulse is here. We love having Adam by. Adam, thank you for stopping in.
Love doing it. Thanks for having me.
Off air, as we hit the record button, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers. We're going to start a whole series here because we are 8 weeks from the draft. Adam, in his amazing wisdom, came up with the idea, let's hit each division, address their needs, talk about the stuff that each team's going to be looking for, because we can hit each division per week and it'll take us right in the draft. Genius. I love it, and that's why we have Adam here. But before we get into that, as everybody is right now, Aaron Rodgers, talking about trending topics and things like that. Of course, Aaron Rodgers is trending, and the reason I had to hit the record button when I did, you're talking about Aaron Rodgers, is because I mean, you had said it. What about Aaron Rodgers trending? I'm watching the ESPN yesterday. Everything about Aaron Rodgers is I'm going to decide soon. I guess he went on some podcast, and I'll make a decision soon. It's coming, and I'm thinking, what decision? I know he has say in it because he's Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers. But look, the Green Bay Packers are the ones that are making the decision. What are we talking about with Aaron Rodgers? Why is Aaron Rodgers the center of this? Because I do understand he has a say in this, but it's not his choice. This is a trade thing. This is not a free agent thing. It's not a contract thing. This is somebody has to offer an astronomical amount to the Green Bay Packers for them to be willing to trade off Aaron Rodgers. To me, I'm like, why are we talking about Aaron Rodgers?
Well, because part of it is because of the no trade clause. So it's kind of both of them. The Packers can say, screw you, we're not trading you, and you can just take it from there. Also, they can try to trade him somewhere, and he can say, yeah, no thanks. So, there kind of is that two-way street of, yes, the Packers don't have to trade him, so, the ball's in their court on that. But if they do want to trade him, he can hold that up as well. So it's kind of a little give and take from both sides.
But again, someone's going to have to offer up an astronomical amount to get him for the Green Bay Packers.
And that's what makes it tricky, because whoever is going to offer that astronomical amount to get him, obviously the contract is a big deal. He's owed $60 million that year or whatever it is. There's only so many teams who can kind of make that work. He'd almost have to be willing to restructure a little bit with most teams. And knowing Aaron Rodgers, he's not going to be very willing to restructure. He's never restructured his whole career. He always wants to be the highest paid guy and set the new standards. First American athlete in history to make $50 million a year. All that kind of stuff I think is important to Aaron Rodgers. He sees that as a legacy building kind of thing. I don't see him taking a pay cut like a guy like Brady always did.
100%. Aaron Rodgers can say, oh, I'm willing to field offers, but who's got the money? Because you're absolutely right. Guaranteed, if a trade goes down, he ends up somewhere as the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Looking at the Deshaun Watson contract, that is an insane amount of money, which is why Lamar Jackson isn't signed yet.
Well, the two guys that really ruins the quarterback market, well, it's not even two guys, it's more so two teams, it's the Browns and the Cardinals. Now, the Browns giving Watson all that money, the amount of money to me isn't necessarily what the problem was. There was a few teams who would have given him the $46 million a year like he got. To me, that's okay. The issue is that 100% of the contract is guaranteed. So now there's guys like Lamar Jackson out there licking their chops saying, well, if you gave Deshaun Watson fully guaranteed, I won an MVP award. Why am I not fully guaranteed? I'm younger than he is. I have more accolades than he does. You better pay me more than him, and I want it all guaranteed as well. The other contract that kind of messed things up was the Cardinals with Kyler Murray, because Kyler Murray's done nothing in the NFL so far. He has no accolades to fall back on. So there's a lot of quarterbacks out there saying, well, if Kyler's making that money, I deserve more than Kyler does. I've done more than he has. So those two contracts there are really going to throw a wrench into the quarterback market.
It's going to throw a wrench in the entire market, and we talked about this on an earlier show as well. That's why this Lamar contract is so important, and you're absolutely right. The words fully guaranteed are going to be the new key points in anything. Eventually, the NFL is going to respond just like they did before, and they're going to limit what teams can fully guarantee. But until that happens, fully guaranteed.
Well, I don't know if the Players Association is ever going to let them do that. I don't know if the Players Association will ever fly for that, because they're pushing for more guaranteed money and they want to protect their players, especially, with all the new injury stuff and this, that, and whatever. They don't want their players getting screwed and not getting paid because they got injured, which happens all the time.
I got it, but the whole point of free agency is to keep everybody competitive. And maybe this is something that does too. When you have the fully guaranteed thing, maybe it makes it more likely that players are going to bounce around because teams aren't going to be able to fully guarantee the same amounts every year. When they fully guarantee this guy for $200 million, they're not going to have the money to fully guarantee other talent. So maybe it does work to even the playing field in the long run. But we saw
I love the competitive balance in the NFL, and I think that's what makes the NFL so great. No other sport has the parity like the NFL does, where teams can go worst to first in 1 year. It happens every single year in the NFL. I mean, look at the Jaguars last year, for example. Also, how rare it is in the NFL to have Super Bowl repeats, and even more rare to have Super Bowl rematches. You never see the same matchup 2 years in a row. You never see the same playoff field 2 years in a row. You can't really say that for other sports. I mean, look at the NBA. It's pretty much the same kind of teams every year, and more so about the superstars and whatnot. In the NFL, everybody really does kind of have a shot at the beginning, or at least at the beginning of the offseason, to turn everything around just with a couple moves.
I would say hockey is really good at it too, but you don't want to get into a whole other tangent of sport.
Well, hockey, I love that once you get to the playoffs in hockey, it's literally anybody's game. If you get a hot goaltender, you can be, you see 8 seeds beat 1 seed, you see low seeds go on runs. If your goalie gets hot, you can win the cup regardless of who you are.
No more. There is no sport that has more unpredictable playoffs and more exciting playoffs in NHL hockey. I'll put that on my mama. It is the most exciting playoffs overall to watch because it's got
pro
the 7
sport
games.
For sure, but
for pro.
Hockey and March Madness tournament you could throw in there as well.
March Madness is a fantastic tournament, 100%. Catch us every week with Coach Sam Hare talking March Madness, talking college basketball from a coach's perspective. It's amazing to listen to. 2 episodes out already as of this recording. Got more coming with that. But we're going to talk football, and you brought in a perfect segue. This playoff season, for everybody that was in the 2021 postseason was back for the 2022 postseason. Sam's won. So we have 3 of the 4 teams come back. I don't think we're going to get that next year. Definitely going to be a lot harder road. So as we start this series out, the 8-week road to the draft, we're going to start with the NFC East. I think no team is going to have a harder time getting back. Honestly, I don't see them getting back than the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles have 10 starters going up as free agents this year, and not mid-tier, easily replaceable starters. I mean, their number 1 quarterback is a free agent this year. They need to restructure their quarterback's contract. They've got guys on defense that are aging out, contracting out. I mean, they've lost their OC, they've lost their DC. They're likely going to lose one of their star running backs, which is interesting to say because they are a running back by committee, and so I think they'll be able to replace that. But they are losing a lot of pieces, or potentially losing a lot of pieces. It's going to be very hard for them to get back.
Yeah, for sure. And, like you mentioned, the D-backs, James Bradbury, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, both free agents. D-line, Javon Hargrave, free agent. And then even when you go on offense, you mentioned, the running back and, of course, the quarterback contract, which is that segue. Hurts is the perfect guy who's going to say what I was saying before, like, hey, if Kyler got that, you better pay me more than Kyler. I'm more valuable than Kyler is. So if that's what he got, that's where we're starting, and we're only going up from there. The other thing with the Eagles, too, is sure, they have, in my opinion, the best offensive line in football, but that line is aging, and it's starting to wear down. We saw the Lane Johnson injuries last year. Kelsey is still awesome, but he's definitely on the back end of his career.
I mean, he could retire
for the Eagles.
Kelsey could retire. He won't, but he could.
He could. I don't think he's going to, because I think he would have already if he was going to, but I think he's got 1 more year in him, and that's it.
Exactly.
He's a free agent too, by the way. Kelsey doesn't have a contract for next year. I think they're going to bring him back on a 1-year deal, but, let's not forget, Kelsey doesn't have a contract either.
I believe he already said that he wants to come back. Pretty sure I read something like that last. He's good. He's not going. He wants to come back. But you're right there on a time schedule. That's why they have to get this Hurts deal done. That's why they have to do well in this
Yeah, I
draft.
mean, they can't do anything until they figure out what they're doing with Hurts.
Money is going to be an issue when you have to replace someone like Bradbury. I mean, look, Fletcher Cox is about aging out. Cam Jurgens is getting there. You've got guys that are going to have to be replaced, if not this year, after next year, very shortly. And so you're kind of in that window where you've got one more chance, but you just lost your OC and your DCs. It's an uphill fight for these guys. They do have 2 first-round picks. They've got the 10th and the 30th, so they've got a little real estate to work with to help fill these gaps. I don't think that they're going to go running back in the draft. I think you can find somebody in free agency for that. But cornerback, I think, is going to be the big need. You know, most people are really predicting that the Eagles are going to go cornerback. Probably the thing that they honestly have to do because of the other contracts that they have to secure.
I mean, it's what made their defense so good, right? Their D-line got after the quarterback at a historic rate. They had like 70 sacks or something like that. They were basically like 85 Bears level with their, pressuring the quarterback. And then what made it so good off of that is that their D-backs were phenomenal. But again, they're losing 2 of them, or, likely losing 2 of them between Bradbury and CJ Gardner-Johnson. And this whole Hurts contract is going to affect whether they can get one or both of those guys back. And if they both have to walk as salary cap casualties, what are they doing to replace that?
You can't keep both those TBs and pay Hurts. Now, they can tell Hurts to wait because they don't have to restructure him right. They don't have, there's no rule, there's nothing saying they have to do anything. All right, they can wait till next year. They can tell Hurts, hey, look, we got to, if you want to have the best team, if you want to have another shot at the Super Bowl, we can't restructure you right now. You're going to have to wait till next year. Hurts really can't do much but say, okay, I mean, there's nothing really he can do. He could refuse to play, but he's not going to. There is a reprieve in that sense that the Eagles do not have to do something with Hurts this year, but they do have to do something.
Realistically, like, if there's anybody who could really use that threat of I'll sit out this year if you don't pay me, someone like Hurts is kind of the ideal candidate to do it. If he, waits a year and doesn't play this year, he's still making $40+ million in free agency next year. If I'm Jalen Hurts, I'm telling the Eagles, you better pay me this year, or you got to start figuring out what you're doing about quarterback, because I just brought you to the Super Bowl this year. I was an MVP level before I got hurt for those last couple weeks of the season, and I'm making no money. Remember, he was only a 2nd-round pick, so he's making no money on his contract. He doesn't even get those nice rookie guarantees of the high 1st-round picks. He's making squat.
I can see him doing a 1-year deal. Look, you're going to give me a 1-year deal. It's going to be a lot of money. You're only getting me for 1 year. I don't care if you franchise tag me. I think he wants more than that. But the Eagles could do that, too. The Eagles could franchise tag him for 45. That's not a horrible takedown for a year. If you're going to do that, you're only getting a year out of me, and next year you're going to pay. You're going to pay me big. I'll take my 45 this year. I'll do that so that we can keep this team together so we can get another shot at the Super Bowl. But I promise you, we make the playoffs again, break out your checkbook, because I won't stick around.
Right, yeah, like that, that situation you're bringing up is a situation that, of course, it's an option, and teams have done that in the past, kind of, like the Kirk Cousins thing with Washington and whatnot. Sure. But I hate when teams take that approach, because you're kind of betting against yourself. That's kind of what happens when you do that thing, because, like, you either pay him now, or if you have to wait a year and pay him, like, what are you hoping for? That he doesn't play well so you can pay him less? No, like, you want him to play great and get back to a Super Bowl again, and then the price goes up. So it's kind of 100%. A lose-lose. Like, you're betting against yourself when you do that. So I hate when teams take that route.
Devil's advocate, though, they are aging. They are kind of in that last chance year before they really have to start rebuilding. And they've already got a lot of needs. Cornerback, linebacker, safety, D-line, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. They got to restructure Hurts. I mean, they got a lot to do this year, and they're going to have even more to do next year. Would it make more sense for the Eagles to take that approach this year, knowing that next year they're already going to have to do all this anyway? So let's salvage this year. Let's take that approach. Let's salvage this year, because this is the best shot that we're going to have for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an approach. Say, hey, look, we'll give you a bump for 1 year, but we could really talk about your extension next offseason when we have more money to play around with, when some of these older guys call it a career, like we said, Kelsey, guys like that. Now, that might be a win-win for both sides, if that's something Hurts is up for. But as you know, most NFL players now don't like one-year deals. They don't like short-term. They want guarantees because of like what I said before. Let's say Jalen Hurts breaks his leg this year. Now he ain't getting that contract he was looking for. He's not getting his $200 million that he should be getting if something catastrophic happens this year, or if he significantly regresses. So it's that guaranteed strike while the iron's hot. His value is high right now, and we'll see if he wants to capitalize on it.
And I've said it before, that's exactly what his agent is saying as well.
And Kyler Murray screwed this whole thing up. That's it. Well, 100%. I guess it was more Michael Bidwell than Kyler Murray. Kyler just, got what he could get. And you can't blame a guy for, you're worth what someone will pay you, right? You can't blame Kyler Murray for the Cardinals overpaying. So it's really the fault of Bidwell in that front office. That's who messed up this whole market.
And it comes down to like, maybe my quarterback, maybe my player isn't worth this much, but if I don't pay them this much, that means I'm going to lose them. And then who am I going to replace them? So it's better to overpay than not know who my quarterback's going to be. So where do the Eagles go? I think the Eagles in the draft, they got to go defensive back, right? With that number 10.
I think they're going defensive back makes sense in the first round, or offensive line, because that's arguably their biggest weapon is their offensive line with the read option stuff that they do with Jalen and the running backs. If they don't have a great offensive line, that stuff does not work nearly as good as it does right now. As we said, with Kelsey, with Lane Johnson, with guys like that, they're starting to age out, and you got to keep building on that if this is really going to be your long-term future.
Okay, so we're saying we're going cornerback or offensive line. Hashtag write that down. I'm going to save your team for last, even though I think that's not the biggest one, but I know it's your team, so I'm going to save it for last. So let's move on to the dumpster fire that is the Washington Commanders. They are a dumpster fire, but at the same time, like when you talk about what a team needs when we're talking about the series and draft teams, like they're pretty cut and dry. They don't need a lot. They could improve in a lot of areas. Really, quarterback, cornerback, and linebacker are kind of like the glaring areas that they obviously need to address first, in my opinion. I mean, how do you see it?
Quarterback is the big, obvious. Glaring red flag right now. I mean, of course, Rivera and the organization is talking about, they believe in Sam Howell, blah, blah, blah. They kind of have to say that because that's all they got right now, and that's who they drafted last year later in the draft.
They don't believe anything about Sam Howell.
No. I don't believe it at all, but what are they supposed to say? Oh,
I would rather have Heineke than Howell, and I'm a Heineke fan. But
so would I, but they're not going to do it again, I don't think. He's the only quarterback they got right now. Now, I think they are going to make a huge effort to get somebody like they did with Wentz, even though that was another failed project. Ron Rivera is coaching for his job right now, but to me, the big glaring black cloud over the Commanders is the whole Dan Snyder selling the team, that whole situation. 100%. If I'm a free agent, I am not going anywhere near the Washington Commanders right now because everything's up in the air. I don't know who the owner is going to be, who the GM is going to be, who the head coach is going to be. If this, if Snyder does sell the team, new ownership probably means changing everything. And if he doesn't sell the team, who the hell wants to play for Dan Snyder anyway?
Ron Rivera used to coach over here in Carolina, of course, earned a lot of respect over here. A lot of the fans here like him as a person. To me, I really don't understand why Ron Rivera is even still there. He's had to have had offers. I don't understand why he's still there because he's a better coach than that, and he shouldn't have to deal with the mess. Because you're right. I mean, we talk about free agent quarterbacks that are out there. We got Carr available. Is Rodgers going somewhere? Garoppolo's out there. Numerous others. Where are they going to go? Are they going to go to the Saints? Are they going to go to the Jets? If Aaron Rodgers leaves it back. Nobody's talking about the Washington Commanders, who are in the most dire need of a quarterback in the entire NFL, with Indianapolis probably coming up a very close second. I mean, nobody needs a quarterback. They don't even have a backup. Nobody needs a quarterback more than Washington, but nobody's putting any of these quarterbacks in Washington because nobody wants to play there.
Exactly. Because what are they going to do? I mean, Carr's not signing with Washington. Garoppolo's not signing with Washington. These quote-unquote established veterans, there's options out there, and Commanders would probably be the last option on the entire list. So they're either going to have to go really deep into that free agent and get a guy like maybe like a Baker Mayfield or something like that, because like Baker may actually go there, because all Baker wants to do this
Baker
year
just
is be a starter. And if he wants to be a starter, someone like the Commanders might be his only option. But those are the kind of guys that the Commanders are looking at this year, not the type like that.
Yeah, if New England lets go of Mac, Baker's a perfect example, things like that. Jameis Winston may end up playing for the Commanders.
A guy that just needs to start to kind of try to keep their career going, that most teams are not going to give them the chance to do that. That's kind of the sweet spot right now for the Commanders. Jameis is a great example, you just said. Like I said, Baker Mayfield, guys like that who are going to have very limited options if they want to be a starter. One of them is probably going to end up with the Commanders.
I actually like Jameis Winston for Washington personally. I love me some Terry McLaurin. Let me tell you what.
Love McLaurin.
He's one of the best receivers in the NFL, and it sucks he has to play on that team because everybody knows it, and I would love to see him be in a situation
all the garbage quarterbacks that he's played with, and he still puts up numbers. Like, just imagine if they get a real quarterback there, or if he goes somewhere with a real quarterback.
100%. Can you imagine McLaurin playing for like a Mahomes?
He puts up great numbers with garbage at quarterback.
The catches he makes, and I know it's the catches he has to make because of the person throwing him the ball. It's ridiculous. He's a human highlight reel.
I love his route running. His routes are so great to me.
Yes, 100%. Olave reminds me a lot of McLaurin. Ironic that they come from the same place, but that's what I always said about Olave is his route running is just so smooth and so ridiculous. And you go back, that's where the best guys were. You talk about the Jerry Rices, sustainable, go-to Hall of Fame guys. Corn is probably never going to get a chance to make the Hall of Fame. Sad because he deserves to be there.
Hey, he's young. His story's still to be written.
I hope it writes its way where it needs to go. Okay, so Washington has number 16. You would think that they're not go for a quarterback that deep in the draft. I'm thinking defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, quarterback, I guess, is possible, even if they could move up a couple slots because, the quarterback is pretty deep. Look, I mean, if they believe in a guy like a Hendon Hooker or something like that. Now, I personally don't so much. Or even if, let's say, like an Anthony Richardson falls out of the top 10 and they can go jump up and grab him. Those are the kind of guys that are possibilities for them in the first round. But I'm kind of on your side that I don't really see them going quarterback in the first round.
It's more me on your side that I agree they're going to take one of these journeyman quarterbacks.
Yeah. Like Baker, Jameis, guys like that, even like a Sam Darnold or something like that.
They'll hit that 1 year deal, the dreaded 1 year deal, but that's what it's going to be. It's one of these guys. We'll save a little bit of money and we'll get ourselves quality players somewhere else. But again,
who knew they could downgrade from Carson Wentz, right?
I did. Carson Wentz is trash. You got to have a quality backup, and they didn't have a quality starter, let alone a backup. The last thing I want to say about Washington before we move on is they have to keep Payne, Sweat, and Young together as well. I mean, these are contracts and money that needs to be addressed as well.
And Payne's a free agent right now.
Yes, he is the free agent.
Doesn't have a contract, and look, if I'm Deron Payne, I ain't re-signing with the Commanders for a lot of those.
I don't care how much money you get.
Exactly.
You don't have the contract.
I'd rather go to a more stable team. If I'm Payne, it's not even about how much you're going to pay me. It's just, look, I need to get out of here and go somewhere where I can, be on a competitive team in a stable situation, and that's that.
I'm going to go play for the Eagles. Hopefully I get back. Yeah, something like that. I wouldn't play for the Eagles this year myself, just because again they have so many pieces missing. What you lose your offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, you lost everybody that coaching wise that got you there, other than head coach. And to me, that's just a bad.
I feel like it's a bigger deal than most people are talking about right now. That both Gannon and Steichen left.
100%, and that. Every day I'm like, why is nobody talking about this to the extent that they should be? It's always like a headline, the blurb. Washington again.
Oh, by the way. Yeah.
I'm going defense on Washington. Best player, either quarterback, cornerback, or linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, I think that D-back definitely makes sense. I'm not a big fan of going linebackers early in the draft.
No, I mean, there's not a lot of first-round
linebackers as a premium position. Now, there's always outliers, of course, but in general, that's not a position I'm looking at early in the draft.
Yeah, you only got one first-round pick. It's a nice pick. It's the 16th pick. That's a good spot. There is still quality cornerbacks, 100%. So we'll move to the Giants. The Giants The Giants need a lot, but they did it to themselves. As long as they can get the contracts done, and I believe they will, they've got their porter back, they've got their running back, and so it's really addressing the other stuff. Wide receiver is obviously a big concern in my mind with the Giants because they don't have a true number one. I do like Slayton, and I think they underutilize him, but I don't know if he's the number one guy. They need some help on defense, same spot as everybody else, cornerback and linebacker, tight end. They got to give some weapons for Daniel Jones to work with, and they need to shore up that defense to lock it down, hit that next level.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on Slayton. I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson looked pretty good in like the limited time he played last year before the injuries, but kind of like you said too, like I don't see either of those guys necessarily as like, the big wide receiver one type threat kind of guy. When I look at the Giants right now, it seems like they have a lot of like good supporting cast members, but where's the lead start?
Yes.
Right? Like, I mean, there's Saquon Barkley, of course, which, he's a free agent. I agree with you. I think he is going to come back. I think Jones is going to come back as well. We're on the same page with that. But, I mean, after Barkley, Thibodeau's so young, sure, he could develop into something, but, like, where is the core? Where's the stars of this team? Where are the guys that you're building around right now? A lot of good supporting cast, a lot of good little pieces, but, like, is that really enough to be competitive right now?
I tell you what they have that nobody else has, and that's one of the better head coaches in the NFL and a guy that you want to play for, in contrast to the mess that is the Commanders. And I'm not talking about Rivera when I talk about the Commanders. You alluded, this is a mess. It's not where I want to go. Whereas the Giants are the exact opposite. They are getting stuff together. The coach is fantastic. He definitely knows how to use what he has. If I'm a free agent, that's one of the teams that I'm looking at that is going to continue to be something, because even when they do move on from Daniel Jones, they're going to bring a quality quarterback is going to fill that role because they're going to want to play for coach.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on Dable. He was awesome with the Bills. He was obviously great in his first year with the Giants. To me, that was the biggest surprise team of the year was the Giants, them getting into the playoffs. I had them pegged as a bottom 5 team. I thought bringing in Dayball was a great move, but I thought that was, step one to rebuilding. Jones looked like this was going to be, a lame duck year. Just let him play out this last year and we'll figure out quarterback next year. It looks like the start of the rebuild process, and all of a sudden this super untalented team makes it to the playoffs and wins a playoff game.
Yeah. So let's play the other side of it. Let's ask the question, was this a fluke? Can they do it again? That teams just didn't know what to do with it. Now that they have tape, now that they know what to do with it.
It did feel like a fluke. Yes, I would say it did feel like a fluke, because even watching a lot of the Giants games last year, it's like they kept finding ways to win games, but they never looked so good doing it. To their credit, they kept grinding it out and finding ways to win. But it wasn't pretty. They didn't look impressive. None of their numbers jumped off the page, offensively or defensively. They didn't really have much going for them. They just had that, classic just find a way to win, and they did that perfectly.
I think the Giants are really one of the teams that people are going to be looking at with that question. A lot of close games, a lot of one-score games that could have gone both ways. And to me,
that's a testament to Brian Daboll, right? He has this system in place now that I think he's proven is a winning formula. His system, the way he coaches games. Look, I think the players love him. I mean, he's a tough-nosed, old-school kind of guy on the sideline. We saw him get in Daniel Jones's face plenty of times when he makes a mistake. And I think there's a lot of players out there that respect that. They want the tough-nosed coach. They want the guy who's just all football all the time, like a Brian Daboll. And again, whatever he did last year, it worked.
It's the team mentality. They played like a team. They had to win as a team, because if there were any individuals out there, it wasn't going to work. That's what a coach does. Great coach can get your team to play together and win together.
You all got to buy in, and if everybody buys in, you can do more than you're supposed to do.
So with concern on both sides of the ball, wide receiver and tight end, Daniel Jones doesn't really have that big guy to throw to. Also on the other side, again, the cornerbacks and the linebackers, and that's most any team, they do have concerns there. They need to fix up that defense. Where do they go with the 25th pick?
For me, the first thing I want to do if I'm the Giants is wide receiver. Now, there's some of those, names out there, like a Hopkins, for example, that could be available for trade. That works too, whether it be in the draft. There's not a lot of options in free agency, but they need a playmaking receiver, a difference maker receiver, which, whether it be that they're sticking with Jones, like we both think that they are, get him a real receiver. I mean, he really showed off his legs this year a lot more than his arms. Get him some stuff to work with in the air. Get him a real number one, a real true threat wide receiver, and see if he could take yet another step forward this season.
Hopkins' age scares me. He's a one-year guy at best.
I wouldn't want him, but he's out there.
He is. Odell Beckham's out there. The Odell Beckham comeback would be interesting. But there are people out there. I mean, DJ Chark is a fantastic receiver, but I kind of put him on the same level as Slayton. I don't know that he's that number one guy. Juju is out there. He's going to get a big contract. I don't know is he a product of the system or has he finally taken the next step? I kind of see Juju going to the Bears personally. There are receivers out there. Paris Campbell is a free agent. Jarvis Landry, Jacoby Myers. But again, those big splash playmakers, I don't know if those are out there.
I know, that's what makes it tough, right? I mean, look, like obviously the ideal name out there, which we don't know if he's moving or not, is T. Higgins. Like if T. Higgins is out there on the market, if I'm the Giants, I'm going all in for T. Higgins. Now, of course, the Bengals are saying that they have no intention whatsoever of trading T. Higgins, and that's just a media-created rumor. And look, that could very well be the case. I don't see T. Higgins getting traded this year. Now, are they going to be able to lock him up long-term? That's a whole different story. But if I'm the Bengals, I'm still taking my chances with T. Higgins.
If you're T. Higgins, do you want to leave the Bengals? You made it to the playoffs. You made it to the Super Bowl first, then you made it to the playoffs again. You could have gone to the Super Bowl. There's no reason whatsoever to think that they don't have just as good a shot to make it again this year. And we'll obviously talk about that.
I'd love to stay on the Bengals as long as they're willing to pay me like a wide receiver one, not a wide receiver two.
To me, I would be willing to work with that to stay on that team. I mean, I'm not going to say that, obviously. I want you to pay me as much as you can possibly pay me, but they are going to have running back issues to address as well. And this is kind of...
that's going to kind of come down to Burrow and Chase, too, right? If they want to keep T. Higgins there as well, the three of them can kind of all get together, take a little bit of a pay cut so that they can all be happy.
Stick around one more year, and let's see if we can get this done. If we can't, happy trails, thanks for coming. But let's go one more year. You're thinking wide receiver at number 25. That's awful deep to go for a wide receiver.
It is. There might be some really high quality receivers still left kind of there with everything that, I kind of think is going to happen with the quarterback. It's going to be a pretty heavy quarterback first round, most likely, which means other positions are going to slip because, of course, the impact defensive players are always going to be very important, take a big priority. Offensive line is always a thing in the first round of the draft. So this could be the kind of year where one of those top receivers actually does flip.
You don't have to trade from 25th to 10. You see a lot of deals, especially down there at the bottom where teams will trade up from 25th to 23rd or, 25th to 21 just to get ahead of that one team we think might take our player. We don't have to get all the way up. That other team has the same need as we do. So we just need to jump them. That is a possibility. I'll jump on that train with you. I'll go wide receiver for the Giants at 25. Let's do that. And that brings us to the one that I know you probably have put a lot of time on this because you are a Cowboys fan. And I know as an NFL writer, you have to remain impartial and stuff like that. But look, when you're a fan, you still garner the appropriate attention to your team. I think the Cowboys are in trouble. And the reason I say that is because there's so many things. Look, they lost their offensive coordinator. The coach is going to be calling the plays now, which he's done before. They have a lot of needs. I mean, you could say linebacker, offensive line, cornerback, safety. They could use another good edge rusher. They have been very vocal about needing another big splash wide receiver. It doesn't have to be a huge guy. This is where the guys like the Landrys and Jacoby Myers and stuff like that come in. They're still trying to figure out their running back situation, and they don't have a pick until number 26.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with the Cowboys, right? They're in a very weird spot right now where, they kind of don't need that much, but they also kind of need a lot at the same time. They're kind of in the opposite boat of what I just said about the Giants. The Giants are missing the stars, but have, a lot of supporting cast. the Cowboys kind of have, some of the stars in place right now. Micah, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, guys like that. But a lot of those additional surrounding supporting pieces are kind of wearing a little bit thin right now.
You have to worry about Gallup. You can't really get rid. You could cut him, but that's about all you could do. And you're not really going to do that when you're in need of receiving help.
Yeah, I mean, I still kind of have a gut feeling that Odell Beckham Jr. is going to end up with the Cowboys. I think, it's one of those where there's smoke, there's fire situations. There was a lot of smoke with this situation towards the end of last year. I just don't think that the Cowboys believe he was physically ready to play yet for the playoffs. Now that we're talking off-season, fresh year, heading into a next season, I think Odell is going to end up with the Cowboys, and that'll kind of be their answer to adding another receiver. Running back, that's a big thing. Tony Pollard, obviously a free agent, also coming off of a major injury. We know Zeke is kind of, aging now and isn't really that every down all the time back anymore. Great complimentary piece. He says he's willing to restructure his contract a little bit. Hopefully he is. But when it comes to that running game, I mean, the Cowboys need to retool the offensive line a little bit too. That was one of their biggest strengths for many years. And as we know, or as I've said often, a great running game, you can have the best running back in the world. If you don't have an offensive line, he's going to have a hard time being consistently good. And vice versa, if you have a dominant offensive line, kind of like the Eagles last year, it almost doesn't matter too much who your running backs are. Your offensive line can create a running game. That's a big question for the Cowboys, too, is getting help on that offensive line, especially with a guy like Tyron Smith, who is clearly kind of at the end of his career at this point.
Unless you are able to get like Bo Jackson or Barry Sanders to come out of retirement, a lot of teams need things. And I don't think the Cowboys need things. I think they want things because they want to get better. They're clearly a good team. They have a lot of great pieces. You're only as good as your weakest link. When you talk about the offensive line, you have a weak link.
If the season started today and the Cowboys did nothing and this is their roster, I still think that they are a playoff team this year. I think they are good enough to be in the playoffs, especially with the NFC relatively on the weaker side. I think the Cowboys can definitely compete for this division because of all the issues that we talked about with the Eagles, with the Giants, with the Commanders. I have the Cowboys in the playoffs right now if they do nothing.
The fact that they have the 26th pick, I think that's what they're going to get. I don't think they're going to get the next superstar. They're not going to get the next Micah Parsons at 26, but they can get a quality supporting person. I think they're going to go offensive line personally. Like you said, that's a lot of offensive people go. A lot of offensive players are already going to be gone all the way down there at 26. But again, there's still going to be people. I think that is where they will go.
I think offensive line makes a lot of sense in the first round for the Cowboys. Like I said, with Tyron Smith, he's clearly at getting very close to retirement. I mean, his temporary replacement last year was 40-year-old Jason Peters. Yes, they drafted Tyler Smith last year, but look, there's retooling and rebuilding that needs to be done on the offensive line. The other direction they could go, in my opinion, would be a cornerback. After Trayvon Diggs, the corner position has been a little bit light. It's been basically the weakness of the entire defense. They're pretty solid everywhere else. And just to make that a little bit weaker, now Anthony Brown is not a very good corner, but he was the second cornerback for the Cowboys for the last 2 years. He's a free agent now as well. So cornerback 2 is an area of need.
You can get somebody in the second round, 27th again in the second round. But the reason I don't think that Pollard or Elliott go anywhere. If anybody did, it was going to be Elliott, and it would be the Cowboys letting him go. Elliott saying the right thing to stay on that team. But that helped Jones use money to address other areas. Your running back, Pollard and Zeke, it's a good squad. It performed very well last year. Add to that offensive line, it's only going to get better for your running back. So I'm on board again with you on this one. Fix the offensive line, which will fix your running back game.
Yeah, like in an ideal world, they do keep both Zeke and Pollard, in my opinion. Both of them, work with the salaries a little bit, kind of work with the contract situation a little bit. They were arguably the best 1-2 punch in the NFL. They know, with Pollard, in my opinion, still on his way up. I don't think we've even seen the full potential best of Pollard yet because he hasn't really gotten the full opportunities to do so. A lot more last year than the previous years, but if you can keep them together, let Zeke do the dirty work, the between the tackle stuff, short yardage, goal line, all that stuff. Let Zeke get beat up a little bit more because he kind of enjoys doing that role anyway to keep Pollard fresh for the explosive stuff.
How worried are we about Pollard's injury?
I mean, it's significant. And obviously it came at a very inopportune time for him when he is due for a contract, because this is the leverage against him, right? Yeah. Well, you had the injury. We haven't seen what you look like healthy yet. Are you going to fully recover? You know, this I could see something Jerry Jones trying to leverage, maybe for a 1-year contract or a 2-year contract, shorter term, that type of deal, because Jerry Jones, and I think I said this the last time I was on, he does pay running backs. Jerry Jones believes in paying running backs. Emmitt Smith and Ezekiel Elliott are two perfect examples. He is fine with investing a lot of money in a running back.
I really think he does it so he doesn't have to worry about it. I pay my running back. I've got my running back. I don't have to worry about that now. I can work on the other pieces of my team. For the next 5 years, I know I'm set at running.
Yeah, and I mean, even Mike McCarthy just said in his recent press conference, I believe it was from the Combine, you know, they were talking about, you know, no more Kellen Moore, you're calling plays, kind of what's the plan moving forward. And his answer was simple. He said, we're going to run the damn ball. That's pretty much what he said. He said, we're going to get back to running the damn ball. And I think that's music also to Jerry Jones's ear, because he is the ground and pound type.
No, everybody loves to see that. You don't see, like, the NFL is set up for the air it out, air raid offense type deal. Those are the highlight reels and stuff like that. But everybody loves to see a good running play. There's nobody watches football that doesn't love to see a running back bust through that first level, get into that second level, and just turn the jets on. Everybody.
I mean, as a Cowboy fan, watching the prime Zeke was beautiful. Prime Zeke, awesome. I mean, you know, you're a Buckeyes guy, you know, prime Zeke is
I hate the Cowboys, but I love Zeke.
He ran violently, he initiated contact, he was explosive, he was lowering his shoulder, running people over in the open fields. Like, you know, prime Zeke, people forget, was very, very special.
And that's the other thing that people love to see too. When you're on the goal line and you know you just have, all they got to do is give the ball to the back. He'll bust through that line. There's nobody who can stop him. People love to see that too.
That's right.
That's what the Cowboys used to be built on. They used to be built on that offensive line. They had one of the best offensive lines in football for over a decade. That's definitely part of the Cowboy legacy outside of the Super Bowls, is the offensive lines they've been able to put together. We're going to run the ball, says McCarthy. That kind of supports my pick for the Cowboys, and that's going to be an offensive line guy.
I'm with you. I'm with you for sure.
The Hulse has spoken. Adam, we appreciate you coming by each and every week. This is going to be a cool series, breaking down these divisions like this. Join us every week with Adam Hulse at That EFIN Sports Show. You can find us at That EFIN Show, EFIN. We're on Twitter, we're on YouTube and all that. More importantly, you can find Adam Hulse at Adam Hulse Sports. Go to Twitter, follow all his stuff out there. But honestly, and we were talking about this before the show too, go to the Google machine, put in Adam Hulse Sports. You're going to see just a ridiculous amount of fantastic content that you're going to want to read.
I mean, yeah, you pretty much covered it. At Adam Hulse Sports on Twitter and Instagram. Also have my own podcast as well, Sports Talk with Adam Hulse, on all the major platforms.
Don't miss out. Every week we're going to hit every division, which means we're going to break down every team by needs going into this draft. That's week 1. We got 7 more to go. Come back and check us out. Everybody be safe. Enjoy sports. Adam, thanks again.
Thanks for having me. Come back next week, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Different flavors of your problems just to savor. I've got my own issues. I need a comb to get through. Don't need to groan with you. Just go get your own tissue.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign.